All join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thank you for showing up. Anyone here for the first time? First time, what brings you here? Hi, what brings you here? Nice, well, welcome. I will do my best to help you learn how to do meditation. If I fail completely, there's another class tomorrow, and they might be better at it. So yeah. Thank you. Welcome. What else? And what's that?
Just to learn.
To learn. What do you want to learn? Help me out.
Anything that I can.
Anything. That's a good attitude. You know. That's a great attitude, actually. Are you brand new to this stuff?
I am.
Yeah. So in Buddhism, we call it beginner's mind, and the idea is that when we think we're so great at something, the possibilities are very limited of how things can be, right? But when we go into something having no idea what we're doing, anything is possible, really. That's the Suzuki Roshi quote about beginner's mind. Part of it is understanding that however we've been possibly doing things up to this point have maybe not worked so well. And so the ability to just kind of empty the cup and try to learn anything we can to be kinder, gentler, happier humans. That's a good place. So, I mean, it's a miserable place, but also a good place, So we're glad you're here. Anybody else here for the first time? Those of you who keep showing up, why show up here? Why come back? Jokes aside. Yeah.
It's a pleasant experience.
Pleasant experience. Yeah. What else?
I want to say something in response to what you say about failure. There's no failure.
Yeah.
There's no failure. It's just part of the learning process.
Yes.
Every single step.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. What else? Why show up here? Yeah.
I needed sacred space to be reverent.
Sacred space, for sure. What else? Why show up? There's a comment here. Jenna. Hi, Jenna. I come back even though it's not in person because it brings me peace and I find comfort and community here. Absolutely. What else? Thanks, Jenna. Yeah, go ahead. And then there.
To regroup.
It's hard to regroup out there, huh?
Yeah.
Why?
Too much going on.
Too much going on.
Way too much.
Yeah.
That was in my head.
In addition to what's in your head, right? Yeah. So there's everything that's going on out there, and then everything's going on in your head. And that's just one big mess, huh? Yeah. Welcome to my world, man. Yeah.
That's 41 years.
Yeah. Last 50. I got you beat by 9.
It helps me kind of like to regroup, but I get away from here and I lack the self-discipline in my practice.
Yeah.
When I come here, I get all motivated and you make me laugh. I'm like, man, I'm gonna do this. And then I go back and I think I should do this because the principles are so wonderful.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminds me that this is a good idea and it's helpful for me.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, it's hard to keep that discipline and that diligence. One of the really key Buddhist practices, you look at the Bodhisattva Path and the Paramitas of generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. And, we often have great diligence with many things in our lives. I mean, we can watch Netflix for 10 hours straight and not move, right? It takes a lot of diligence. But the diligence that Buddha is talking about really within many areas, but especially around cultivating a spiritual path. And that requires a lot of effort. And it can be challenging. It can be difficult. And when we are out there in the world that isn't always working on their spiritual journey, it can be hard because it's so easy to get pulled into ways of life that we've become accustomed to or lived with for so long that have caused tremendous pain, tremendous struggle, tremendous sadness, tremendous anxiety. And so, the Buddhist teachings really are often referred to as going against the stream. It's going against what so many of us have learned for much of our lives. And, if you've been around 41 years, that's 41 years of teaching you probably very much the opposite of what a lot of this practice is. And so it's hard to go against that. That diligence is required. So, and patience, be patient with yourself. If you're new to this practice, if you've been at this every day for the last 40 years, still be patient with yourself. Because this path and this practice and cultivating a sense of peace and happiness and joy within your heart isn't always so easy, and just don't give up, just keep practicing. So with that, we'll start with the meditation practice. A couple things I'll tell you. There's another comment here, virtually. I come back because nothing else makes sense. Or nothing else makes more sense than sitting and breathing. Yeah, for sure. So for those who are maybe sitting in meditation for the first time, a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, also just trying to sit up straight. Relaxing the shoulders. Hands can be on the knees or lap, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move during meditation, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator, just means you need to move. And again, for those who are new, you're not trying to empty your mind. You're not trying to go blank. You will not think nothing. Your mind will continue to race. I will say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought and help guide you back to present moment. Again, lost in thought, back to present moment. So that would be the practice. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, Follow breath in. Breathing out. Follow breath out. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from your practice. Just sitting. Breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, in the mind, learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, and no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, it's not from anything I said. It's not from how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's not from the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external situation. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap to the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. It helps you become aware of your life that's a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess so you can actually make changes in your life. Meditation is direct perception into the present moment, learning to be with life as it arises. Life is filled with conflict, chaos, difficulties, challenges. That's it. It's also filled with joy and happiness and beauty and wonderful things too. But most people don't end up here on a Tuesday night at 7:00 because they spend all day long focused on the wonderful things in their lives. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do in every moment. The Buddha called this karma. Karma is not what goes around comes around. Karma is not getting what you deserve. Karma is not them getting what they deserve. Karma literally means action. The Buddha taught very clearly we generate karma 3 ways: body, speech, mind. Everything we think, everything we say, and everything we do. Karma is what we bring into the world. So the practice is to be mindful of our own karma. Again, not what we get, not what we deserve, but what we bring, what we give with our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And the kinder and gentler we are with our thoughts and our words and our actions, first and foremost to ourselves, and then to others, life gets a little simpler. Once we stop trying to change, control, fix, manipulate everything and everyone around us, and we work on our mind and our heart and our reaction to the world around us, life gets a little simpler. But it is a practice, and as I spoke about at the beginning, it requires diligence, it requires patience. But suffering, dukkha as the Buddha called it, sucks. Suffering is not fun. Anger, sadness, depression, stress, anxiety, these things are not fun. So we cultivate this path and this practice to suffer less. A little bit each day. For me as a practitioner, that's the practice. Can I suffer a little bit less today than I did yesterday? That's it. I don't have some lofty goal of awakening anytime soon. I just hope I suffer a little bit less today than I did yesterday. And if I can stack that day in and day out, I'm good. So with that, I'll pause. For me, I always really prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And again, to those joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Beirut, I saw your hello, so thank you. Glad you're here. And we'll open up to questions virtually. If you have them, you can put them on the chat box there. I'll do my best to respond. Anything around meditation or Buddhist practice. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you for the message. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Have we already sit and breathe for almost an hour?
An hour? No.
Or how long?
That was probably about 18 minutes. 18 and a half.
Okay. I lost track of the time. I feel, wow, if it's close to an hour, that was very quick.
Yes. That's good.
And so feel very good to be just like sit and waiting, do nothing. My question, how can we, if in the life during the day, we do not get to sit and breathe all day long.
Mm.
We have a lot going on that we have to take care of.
Mm.
How do we apply this principle, this method to the action and the process?
Yeah.
We have to do something, but we still can be very focused.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's question number one.
Okay.
You're talking about.
Can I start with question number one? All right. Thank you. So good question. So to paraphrase for those virtually who didn't hear it, the question is around, that was you enjoyed sitting and breathing and doing nothing, as you said. But during our day, we don't always sit and breathe and do nothing. So how do we, in essence, close the gap and bring this practice and make it applicable to our day-to-day lives, right? So a couple things, for you and for everybody here, really, think about simple daily tasks such as brushing your teeth. Do you brush your teeth every day? Tomorrow? Yesterday? Every single day? Maybe not. Every once in a while, someone's like, yeah, not so sure. I saw that, Yeah. College kids, it's great because they're like, yeah, like last week I did. But so we brush your teeth every day, right? You comb your hair every day. Some of us don't know how I always like that you're always sitting there. Some of us don't worry about that anymore, right? But we do these things every day. We brush our teeth, we comb our hair. They're habits. We've been taught them since we were little children. To brush your teeth and comb your hair. Every morning, every night, go to sleep, wake up, brush your teeth, comb your hair, right? Taking time to sit and breathe in a very dedicated, meditative way is not something most of us have been taught. So what I'm suggesting is not to look at meditation as something that is going to fix or immediately change anything in your day-to-day life. But if you brush your teeth for 2 minutes every day, if you comb your hair for a minute or two every day, if you take care of your mind with meditation for 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 minutes every day, in time, your life will change. But it's not about this idea. Often people who may be new to meditation think that, for example, if we have a headache, you have a headache, what do? Take something for it. What do you take? Just ibuprofen, right? So we get a headache, you pop a couple ibuprofen, you hope the headache goes away. Next day, headache comes back. What do? Take it again. Next thing you know, 41 years go by and you've been popping ibuprofen for headaches, right? So for me, meditation is preventative. The stress, the anxiety, the fear, the worry, the anger, whatever we have going on through our day-to-day lives that causes discomfort, the meditation is helping that in advance. But it's not a Band-Aid. It's not let's pop some Advil and make the headache go away. Yes, if you have stress and anxiety throughout your day, take a few minutes to pause and breathe and let things settle. But 2 minutes later, it's probably going to come back. But the more you practice this stuff, the less stressed out or whatever emotion you want to put in there you get throughout your day. So do this every day for the next 6 months, and then you'll know how it impacts your life. Not from anything I've said, right? Whatever meditation has done for me or whatever it's done for you is irrelevant. Meaning it'll impact all of us differently. But we won't know that until we try it on our own and do it every day. And then we'll be able to say, oh yeah, this is how it's helping my life. And if it doesn't help your life and you don't like it, then, go back to ibuprofen. Yeah. Second question?
Right. You talk about the karma. And that's kind of a new way of looking at it.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel that's pretty deep.
Yes.
In my mind, I was thinking about a word called consequence. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more? The difference between karma and the consequence?
Yeah. Thank you. So the question, to paraphrase for those virtually didn't hear anyone else, that the way I introduced karma was a new way of looking at it for you. And then the word that comes to mind is consequence. And so can I talk about the relationship between karma and consequence? So again, to reiterate what I just said, for most people who are new to Buddhism, especially in a Western culture, we often think that karma is what goes around comes around. I mean, that's just, for whatever reason, that's what we think. There was a little cartoon I saw years ago where it's a person sitting in the middle and they're pushing these like domino things looking like kind of Stonehenge Stones. Thanks. There you go. I was like, bricks, blocks, what are they? They're stones, right? So I was sitting there pushing these stones, and they're falling like dominoes, and they're coming back on the person sitting there, and underneath it says karma. And this is not what karma is. Again, I'm repeating what I said, but I want to start with this again in a little more detail. We spend our whole lives, most people in a Western culture, thinking that karma is if you do good, you're going to get good. If you do bad, you're going to get bad. Or you see people who do bad things, you're like, well, they're going to get their karma. Their karma is what's coming to them. Karma is action. It's not consequence. Karma is simply the law of cause and effect. Anyone in here done anything really bad and had good stuff come from it? Yeah. Anyone ever done stuff really good and then had bad stuff come from it? Or you're like, oh, I've been so kind and wonderful and helpful to you. Why are you still treating me like crap? Because we layer this consequence idea, this relationship where we put meaning onto our actions, and then we expect things in return from it. We do good things, we think people are going to do good things back. Have you not figured out by now that's not how life works? The Buddhist teachings very clearly are to not attach. The Bodhisattva practice, Bodhisattva means enlightened being. The Bodhisattva practice in what's called the Mahayana school of Buddhism is talking about this idea of generosity. And the practice is to give without any notion of the gift, the giver, or the receiver. So you're not attached to any one of your actions. We are kind and gentle to others without any strings attached. You ever give a gift and all of a sudden they don't like it? And you're like, oh, that sucks. Or you do something nice for somebody and you don't feel like it was received well. And you're like, well, I'm done doing nice things for them. Well, how selfish is that? Who does that mean your life is focused on the most? You. Can we just practice loving kindness and compassion for the sake of practicing loving kindness and compassion and not attach to the outcome and the result, not attach to the consequences? Karma is not about consequence. It is the law of cause and effect. This idea that another kind of Western phrase that I think Buddhism really just shatters is this idea of everything happens for a reason. This is a very beautiful Western psychological way of us spinning in our head bad things that happen into something good. That, well, this happened for a reason. Wonderful. I'm sure all of us in this room have had terrible things happen to us on varying degrees, various degrees throughout our lives. And the fact that we can look at a terrible thing that happened and make good out of it or learn from it or grow from it is a wonderful thing. I don't want to take that away or shatter that. But what we're really doing is we're looking at something bad that's happened, and then we're trying to give it meaning. Things just happen. So it's not about things happen for a reason. To me, the Buddhist approach of that is things happen. Things just happen. We give it meaning. And from that meaning, we assign labels and critiques and judgments. And, we think everybody is wrong, which means we're what? I mean, how many of you are around thinking all day long that you're right? Bunch of liars in here, We think we're right. And therefore, if we're right, we think everybody else is wrong. All examples of how we attach to our views and that we have expectations tied to our views. Buddhist teachings on non-attachment is to practice, as I said earlier, giving, love and kindness and compassion without expecting anything in return. My first teacher, Buddhist nun, she always said, learn to expect nothing from anyone ever. And 22 years ago, she taught me that. And it was the greatest thing I ever learned. Learn to expect nothing from anyone ever. And that does not mean if you're in unhealthy, physically, mentally, emotionally toxic dynamic in relationships that you should stay in them. Buddhist practice is not some hall pass to be treated like crap. But to expect people to be a certain way is putting a lot of weight on things. So what else? Yeah.
Kind of a caveat on the karma in
Yeah.
action. And obviously, very limited research first time here.
Sure.
And then also based on my upbringing with a pretty concentrated religious background.
Yeah.
What is the layman's way of explaining that Buddhism is not about worshiping an entity.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, very simple.
trying to see that.
Yeah, understood. No, again, I always repeat things for virtually those who didn't hear it. But your question is, being new to Buddhism, this idea of kind of following up on karma for someone who's brand new, coming with a heavy religious background. What's kind of the Buddhist view on not like worshiping or praising an entity, as you said, or often people say deities, right? So let me touch on just surface level, but also ultimately what the Buddha taught around the big question in Western worlds of looking at Buddhism, Western countries is Buddhism a religion or philosophy? Now, what's your name? Shannon. My guess is you didn't come here tonight to learn another religion, did you? Nope, sure didn't. You see how quick he said that? Right? So give me a second here before you run out, right? Let me finish this thought before you leave, okay? First, show of hands. How many of you in this room are Buddhist? Look around the room, Shannon. You see one person in the front who did this because they're not sure. Nobody in here is Buddhist. The only Buddhist in the room is me. I identify as a Buddhist. I am a Buddhist. I'm also a Jew, right? They call us Jew-boos, right? I mean that very seriously. The largest percentage of Buddhists in this country that come from another religion come from Judaism. In the 60s, Sharon Salzberg, Joseph Goldstein, Jack Kornfield. Sounds like a law firm, right? Goldstein, Kornfield, and Salzberg. They built what's called Insight Meditation Society in Bari, Massachusetts. Theravada Buddhists went to India in the 60s. I mean, Buddhism in the 60s in America and India. Are you kidding me? What a crazy, wild time that was, right? 60 years later, so much of Buddhism in America exists, and all three of them are still teaching, exists because of those three Jewish folks out on the East Coast. And they've written and changed the lives of more people than you could even imagine, right? This idea of Buddhism being a philosophy or religion, let me come back to that. The first idea I showed you is that these people here in the room are not Buddhist. They're Christian, Catholic, Muslim, Jewish, pagan, Mormon, or lack thereof, right? Whatever they are or aren't, totally up to them. The Buddha was asked 12 or 14 questions he wouldn't answer, because he didn't feel they were important, meaning he couldn't respond to them in a way that he felt was truthful. This is my interpretation of it. One of them was, should we believe in gods and goddesses? Now, keep in mind, this is 500 years before Christ. So 2,500 years ago, the Buddha was just a dude. I won't go into his life story, but he was just a person, right? Yeah, he wasn't a god. He was just some dude. He was born a prince, left the life, became a homeless wandering beggar. 35, sat down under the Bodhi tree in India and said, I figure out why we suffer. And for 45 years, he taught. I'll come back to that probably. And then he died at 80. But they asked him, should we believe in gods and goddesses, referring to Hindu gods and goddesses? And he said, in essence, I'm just a human. I cannot tell you to believe in gods and goddesses. If you believe in them, you do. If you don't, you don't. That is up to you. I can teach you how to live a gentle, simple, moral way of life. That's what he taught. What I have pulled into that in today, modern day, and especially for me as a practitioner, is I don't see Buddhism as a religion. I see it as a philosophy and a way of life, which is the way most Western people come in to Buddhism, right? Close friends with St. Paul's Cathedral, Episcopal Cathedral down the street in Balboa Park, dear friend of mine, the Reverend Penny Bridges. A lot of people from this Episcopal church also come to the Dharma Bum Temple. And she said that they have a lot of Episcopalians who are better Episcopalians because of their time spent at the Dharma Bum Temple. Years ago, a friend of mine said she looked at Buddhism, her Catholic faith was important to her. And so was Buddhist practice. And she said to her, Buddhism was like a software upgrade. It actually brought her closer to her religious faith. The Dalai Lama said, someone asked him if this country needs more Buddhists. And he said, the world has enough Buddhists. This country just needs more people who are peaceful and happy. So all of those things kind of take the approach of, it's a philosophy, it's a way of life. It's not about religion. There's no God. By definition, religion is a belief in a higher power or God. That doesn't exist in Buddhism. The Buddha didn't want you to believe in him, right? There's an expression that says, don't seek to be like the Buddha, seek what the Buddha sought. Now, when you see at temples and at Buddhist places, people bowing and doing things like that to the Buddha, they're not worshiping him. They're not praising him. They're in essence at the beginning when we joined Palms and I did my 3 half bows and we say we take refuge in the Buddha, what we're finding safety, comfort, protection in is what's called bodhicitta, which means Buddha nature. And what the Buddha taught is that we all are already awakened. The word Buddha just means awakened, right? It was just some dude and they said, you have awakened, we will call you the Buddha. So that's where they called him. But what he wanted people to wake up to was their own suffering, right? With me so far? Now the flip side, this is the part where you would run it. You're not going to run out, I'm sure. But here's the thing. If you go to millions of Buddhist people all over the world, right? If you go to down the street, the Taiwanese Buddhist temple, the Vietnamese Buddhist temple, the Japanese Buddhist temple, the Korean Buddhist temple, any of the what I call cultural Buddhist temples, right? In the US or parts of Asia, anywhere throughout Asia, to them, Buddhism is practiced religiously. They're very devout, very faith-based. You'll see more ritual. I mean, I come from a very faith-based Buddhist Taiwanese ritual practice. And they have more rituals than the Catholic Church, right? So you'll see all of those things going on. And when you view it, it might look like this strange religious stuff. But when you actually understand what's happening, they practice it religiously. But the beliefs aren't in the gods. So that's a very long-winded answer, but I hope that clarifies a lot for you. Yeah, I'm very passionate about that subject, obviously. It's only been the last 28 years of my life. So, yeah. What else? Yeah.
Back to your karma. Gotten away from the karma consequence, but cause and effects.
Yeah.
I hear in Buddhist terms, cause and conditions that cause karmic seeds to ripen.
Yeah.
So I get the effect part. So when I think something happens, I take total responsibility for everything that happens because I have some understanding of the karma thing.
Yeah.
I certainly can't figure it out, but I concentrate on my positive aspects. It's like sending little pebbles out there for the future.
Sure.
I don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
But there is that. I get that why people think it's consequence. There is an element of that, but you don't focus on that's the cause because you never know what it is.
Yeah, and we're really talking about semantics here. When we hear consequence, often, not always, but often in the English language, consequence, what other word comes to mind?
Sometimes negative.
Negative punishment. That's what comes to mind for me. When I hear consequence, I think punishment. So we think of like this consequence, this punishment that's coming back to us, which is again the very kind of common Western way of viewing karma. But to your point, you're absolutely correct in that the law of cause and effect, I'll give you an example probably in a minute here, I'll come up with something, but for every cause, there is an effect. That effect now becomes the cause of the next effect, right? So if I get up and I give you a hug, right? I've planted that karmic seed. Now there's hope that you might hug me back. I go into it with the intention that if I give you a hug, we're in a Buddhist temple, look at all these nice, happy, wonderful people here, right? If I give you a hug, there's a good chance you're going to hug me back. Maybe I've offended you. Maybe I have triggered you. Maybe you just hate me and you punch me. I don't know what's going to happen from that cause. That cause immediately creates an effect. So we interact. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening is a pratitya samupata, dependent origination, and that every action, right? Like, the law of the opposite and equal reaction, but take up kind of the opposite thing away. Every action has another action to it. And so the idea, last thought on that, is the karmic seeds, is that yes, every thought, every word, every physical action is planting a karmic seed. And the Buddha taught very clearly that all karmic seeds bear fruit. So again, the practice in a very dedicated way is to be, as I said, mindful of what I think, because often what I think becomes what I say. And often what I say will become what I do. So those karmic seeds we're planting are important to watch because they impact us and those around us. Yeah.
And I'm finding that the more I'm beginning to grasp the fullness of karma, the more I understand about the no God thing, because you cannot presuppose a first cause, and it's always cause and effect.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. For me, because half the people in the room probably believe in a God. So I don't get wrapped up in the God or no God thing, right? I mean, it's irrelevant to me, regardless of what religion you come from or what your beliefs around God or no God are. The reality is, my actions determine, regardless, what's happening next. So, if there's somebody up there judging me and telling me where I'm going to go, it's based on what I do. And if they do, I know where I'm going. It ain't pretty. What else? Yeah.
How can we sincerely act in what we hope is the right way when we don't know how that way might be taken? And a safer way might be to do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, great question. How can we act in a way that considering we don't know how others are, a compassionate way. We don't know how others are going to act. So the Eightfold Path, and I'll touch on this super briefly, but the Four Noble Truths, right? The first thing is, the Buddha taught, for those who might be brand new, that life is filled with dukkha, suffering, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction. Second thing is the cause. The cause is the three poisons we call greed, anger, ignorance. So we practice generosity, compassion, wisdom. The third is the ending of suffering, right? Liberation. The fourth is the path. And to me, this question addresses the path. And this Eightfold Path, correct views, thought, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration, all of that's on Google for free. So if you're brand new, Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, Google, and it'll give you enough information to, start with, right? Truly, for like 5 years. So the question is, how do we know? The practice, the simple answer is we don't, first of all, but let me expand on that a little bit. The practice is two things. One, to cultivate, coming from the first step on the Eightfold Path, is the correct view. Now, the view is taught different ways, but for me, the way I look at view in my life, when you, Owen, wake up and go through your day, who's primarily the first person you're thinking about all day long? You, right? I mean, no offense, you're great, but we think.
I often have my mind on an imaginary person that's not with me, but
Right. So you or the imaginary person that's not with you. But either way, the mind is focused on us a lot. And so for me, part of the correct view is to understand that I'm not the most important person in the universe. As much as I might think I am, everybody else is equally as important as I am. And from that view of non-self, again, view, I'm not saying I can do this, but this is my intention, my effort. As you've heard me say, if I can do 30% of the stuff I talk about, I'm good with that for quite a while. This stuff is not easy. But the practice of non-self, looking at right view, for me, that's what's going on. And non-self doesn't mean I'm not here, doesn't mean I don't exist. It just means I exist completely differently from how I perceive myself. And it also means that I'm no more important than anybody else. So if I can observe in every situation, every response to any interaction in our day, with family, with friends, with traffic, with grocery stores, with coffee lines, with whoever made your food, whoever made your latte the wrong way, that you're all pissed off because you didn't get enough pumps of whatever, right? So if I can understand that they also are suffering, they also have a whole mess of a life going on in their head, just like everybody else. If I can embrace that view always, then whatever I do, karmically, think, say, and do from that place, the intention ultimately is coming from a place of wisdom that says this interaction isn't about me. It's not about me. And much of our lives, I think, for most people, if we're honest, we look at every interaction as me. What do I get? What about me? So the reason I start with saying ultimately we don't know is that we would have to be abiding in a place of ultimate wisdom. As they say in Buddhism, the two wings are wisdom and compassion. So we would have to be abiding in an ultimate place of wisdom to know that we are taking that ultimate wise karmic kind of step. I, as a practitioner, always default back to my intention. If my intention is coming from a pure place, that's what I have control over. But you're absolutely right. I don't know how that intention is going to play out. I'm sure many of us in this room have had beautiful intentions and shared beautiful thoughts and ideas and words, and they were met with, not today. So I just default back to intention and kind of sit with that. Yeah. We'll do one more question before we close. Yeah.
It's not necessarily a question. It's more like kind of how I view it is I've heard before that a way to kind of understand compassion is having care without completely having understanding. And I think that's a really interesting thing whenever you talk about like the two wings. I forget exactly what the two wings are: wisdom and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And the wisdom part of it is knowing that everyone is suffering and that everyone is going through their own thing. And then the compassion is not having to know exactly what it is, but being able to care regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I mean, that's a beautiful description. I mean, not that it has to go into Buddhist terms, but what you're really describing, again, is non-self and non-attachment. That you're just sharing love and compassion without any need to understand why. Right? And if we just shared love and compassion with everybody always, regardless of what their views were, if everybody did that always, imagine how incredible that would be. And often people will default, right? I've been doing this long enough. Often people will default like, well, nobody else is going to do that, so why should I do that? And then we're screwed. So don't do it with the hope or expectation or idea that somebody else is going to be that way, because they're not all going to be that way. But this practice, again, isn't about how are others being. This practice is how are we. We don't come here to fix others. We don't come here to change others. We come here to become aware of where we can be kinder and gentler to ourselves and have more compassion for ourselves and others. That's what this practice is. And that's why it's not for everybody, because it is easier to just point fingers and blame everybody else for everything that's going on, But as I've always said, the world has always been a mess. The world is a mess, and the world will, in all likelihood, continue to be a mess for a long time. But the question is, are you a mess? And to me, this practice is kind of asking ourselves that question, like, is my mind, is my heart a mess? And what do I have to do to take care of my mind and my heart? So with that, we'll join palms and close. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. All right, before you all head out, we have a few announcements from our host, Milena. Thanks, Milena.
Hello, everyone. I'm tonight's host, and my name is Milena. We opened Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The whole schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. It's over there. We have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and then bring it back whenever you're done. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay and close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well and hope to see you again.
Thanks, Milena. Thank you all.